My brain's splitting off in so many different directions. My brain's splitting off in so many different. My brain's splitting off in so many different directions that no one has the answers to. My dad was a shrink. Certain things upset me. And my dad was a shrink. Certain things upset me. And my dad was a shrink. Things upset me. What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? Questions that no one has the answers to.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I finish series. We only cover the last 4 episodes of anything. Last 4 issues, 4 episodes, 4 movies. That's all we do. We finish stuff.
It's the only series. Well, no, I guess we finished Deadly Genesis, which is a miniseries. But this is the only series we've done because New X-Men kept going on.
Yeah.
This is the last 4 issues of X-Statix.
Yeah, so this is X-Statix versus the Avengers. You want to catch us up with what's been happening so far, Gary?
Well, Dupe, our big green guy, Thor threw a Mjolnir into him and his brain exploded. And the X-Statix and the Avengers are off to go get it. And we're in this series of like one-on-one kind of mashups between the characters, contrasting the X-Statix and the Avengers, trying to get the brain to save Dupe's life and maintain control of Dupe.
So far, we've had Captain America versus the Anarchist. And we've had Scarlet Witch versus Dead Girl. And that leads us into Vivisector versus Hawkeye. And a very fun issue, I think. I like this a lot.
This stuff's funny.
Before we get too far into this, let's remind the folks at home that since we're wrapping this up, we are going to do a feedback episode. So if you have thoughts or questions for us regarding X-Statix or any of the stuff we've covered on the podcast, just let us know. You can go to daysoffuturecast.com/contact. You can DM us on Twitter. You can send me a DM personally on Twitter at JG Greer. I'll track all that stuff down. Don't send them to Gary because Gary has no idea where I store this stuff and it'll just get lost.
Yeah, I'll forget.
Yeah.
He's got a cask that I don't look into. So
no Gary's allowed.
No Gary's allowed.
Yeah.
You can have one. And then in terms of what we're doing, like after this, our current plan is to do some number ones. So get off this kind of long story arc thing and check out, the first X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 1, giant size X-Men number 1, and then the 90s adjectiveless X-Men.
Yeah.
Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. That's the first part of that 7-part arc with Magneto and the Acolytes and shit.
Yeah.
And then after that, who knows? A couple of people have asked me, about WandaVision. Like, we will talk about WandaVision on this thing, but we're going to wait for it to wrap up.
Yes.
Because we don't want to seem like fools.
No.
Sitting around just being like, oh yeah, Mephisto's did it. And then, we don't know.
And then the show just doesn't. It's a complete fucking fake out. Like, it's complete fucking fake out.
The show has been surprising to me so far. So
absolutely. Yeah. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like the way that this is setting stuff up for the rest of the MCU. I've been rewatching a bunch of MCU movies too, for better or for worse. Watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Age of Ultron.
I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, man.
Do you really?
Like, yeah. I actually kind of like Age of Ultron, but I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 more. Age of Ultron, I think, is kind of fun. It's not nearly as good as Avengers 1 or 3.
No, absolutely not. Age of Ultron was interesting just because of how much it does. I think that movie can easily be lambasted because of its like lengthy fight scene and kind of the convolutions that goes to make the two teams be against each other and then set them up in the toy box. But like, also Ant-Man got big and what cool. So I'm kind of also here for the toy box to a certain degree. Well,
it's got that horrible like Scarlet Witch or Black Widow, Hulk subplot. Which is just so fucking embarrassing.
Dude, and then like I had completely forgotten when they're like all trying to pick up the hammer, and Tony Stark makes if I could pick it up, I'm the king of Asgard, and Thor's like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, well, the first thing I'm gonna do is reinstate Prima Nocta, and I'm like, what the fuck, Joss Whedon?
Yeah,
super fucking
Joss
gross.
Whedon, we should have all known you were a fucking creep.
I think a good amount of people have known for a long time. So,
well, I mean, but we should have guessed.
Yeah,
and I didn't guess. Yeah, boy. Yeah, but I've been feeling a rewatch of some of those as well, specifically like the Avengers ones because of WandaVision.
Yeah. That's why I went. I've seen Avengers so much, and Age of Ultron is where she and Vision are both introduced. So it's been funny. Like the moment that Vision shows up, that chick is in love. Like he hops out of that thing, and he's got like smoke coming off of him. They cut the camera to her, and she's just like,
damn.
She is just into it. She's like, I'm gonna fuck that synthezoid. That's gonna happen.
I love a fuck machine, a fucking machine. Actually, Wanda, I'm not. I can actually do many things. Nope. You're the bike from the end of Burn After Reading. That's what you are to me.
That's it. So yeah, that's going to be our plans. WandaVision will happen after the show wraps up, which as we're recording today is like 3 weeks from now. So give us some time on that, and we'll do like a big episode. We don't really know how we're going to structure any of that stuff yet, but in the meantime, all number ones, no number twos. After we finish X-Statix, and send in your feedback, send it to us. So
absolutely,
let's talk about X-Statix 23.
Yeah. We basic cover, we have Hawkeye versus the Vivisector. And they're in Africa. We got some cool rhinos in the background. And we start off with this narration. We're going to later find out this is from Vivisector. I keep saying from Vivisector. He's talking about this fictional African nation of Azania, and kind of how the brain has landed here and really thrown things off. Yep. This balance between the government and the rebels, both of which seem to be doing lots of war crimes and be pretty horrible. Yeah,
this is, and like throughout this issue, or throughout this half of the issue, Vivisector and Hawkeye are going to talk about like the merits of each one of these sides. And it's obviously a fictional place, but like, pulled from the headlines or whatever you want to call it. And I was kind of surprised at how like deft them handling this stuff was. Like it doesn't seem tone deaf at all, which is kind of, when it started, is exactly what I was expecting. Like, like you have giraffes running in the background of a cityscape. Like, what are we doing? Like, is this going to be stereotype central? But it turns out like they, like, especially Vivisector kind of has a handle on this, and it's just like, we shouldn't be here. Like, we shouldn't be on either one of these sides. Like, and I find that
they
really
literally just say at some point, like, this is too complicated for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, and that's really meta in this. Like, this is not a playpen for superheroes. Like this, there's just more here than we can really deal with, which I like.
Yep. So the rebels are fighting against the government. Meanwhile, the government has got a new weapon at their disposal, which is Vivisector. And the only reason he is here is to get the part of Dupe's brain. They have to find it. But of course, Hawkeye is here on the side of the rebels to fight against him, because the rebels have promised, like, if he helps them overthrow the government, then they'll give him Dupe's brain.
Yeah. And they get into a fight, just like a superhero fight, with lots of expositional dialogue around it, kind of debating the merits of these two things. Whether the government is the lesser of two evils because the rebels are monsters, but it doesn't matter because I need to get the brain, no matter what. And Vivisector, at this point, the dialogue in this is very clever. Hawkeye is manipulating him basically the entire time. And that starts right from the beginning. And it's really fucking devious.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he really comes off as like an idiot, right? Like he's coming off as like a complete idiot during the whole thing, which draws Vivisector's attention, and then just lulls them into a false sense of security, and then like wins the day. Basically, it's really devious.
It's deft as hell. The part of it, he starts off saying like, hey, I don't have any powers, so I have to work extra hard. Vivisector gets the upper hand because he's a werewolf and Hawkeye is a guy with a bow. But Vivisector can't kill him. Like he can't mess up his face because he's too attracted to him. Hawkeye ends up knocking him out. There's this great, like, he says, oh, you've impaled me, but I have to talk about Dupe, the African context. Really good Vivisector dialogue in this. And the little rude awakening, when Miles wakes up, he sees that the government has hung a bunch of people for being homosexual. Yep. Here. So they're maybe not the good guys he thinks they are.
Exactly. And meanwhile, like in the rebel camp, like they're they're forcing Hawkeye to like basically saying like, hey, look, we had an agreement, but you're not really coming through. Like, you haven't done anything. Like, we're super disappointed in you. Like, we wish we had an Avenger with some superpowers, not you. And it's just like, you could go read Matt Fraction's Hawkeye series, or like more of this like insecure Hawkeye stuff, and it works really, really well. And I find it very funny here. I find it very like endearing and kind of pitiful in that, which I think is the goal in Matt Fraction series. But like, this is just very funny but also very earnest at the same time in a way.
Yeah,
like it kind of reminds me of the Hobbits in Lord of the Rings. How like, you could definitely make fun of those bros, but like, they're the sweetest bros. Like, they're just really nice dudes. They're just super, super nice. Why are you making fun of them, man?
No, I like I love this. That's something you can say about X-Statix as well. Like, this is funny, but also a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Like, I still have sympathy for him. Like, he's literally just like, I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you expect?
I'm not Tony Stark.
There's a great little bit, Vivisector then tracks him down and says like, hey, we need to talk. We need to go somewhere safer. And they go into a bombed out UN building.
Very funny.
It's very funny. And they're saying like, hey, there's a very aware dialogue here where Miles is like, yeah, we're in over our heads. Africa is too complex. And Hawkeye says, you're telling me, why can't they be more like us?
Oof.
Just pretty aware. They start talking about it. And this is where Hawkeye is again playing his scheme. He keeps flattering Miles, like, not everyone's as smart as you, remember, you're way smarter than I'll ever be, but I have an idea. Let's team up. Let's be partners.
Yeah. And of course, by Miles' face, you can see that this means something completely different to him.
Yeah, Miles makes a horny grin, creates a horny grin on his face. And the two of them team up for a little bit. With Hawkeye playing Miles like a fucking fiddle the entire time.
Yep. I love the fact that every time Hawkeye shoots an arrow in X-Statix, it's almost always the punch glove arrow. That's just very funny to me. Like, that's a joke that never gets old for me.
I love a boxing glove arrow.
Yeah. And Hawkeye does a lot of work of like, we're both the runts of the litter, like really like just ingratiating himself with Vivisector in order to later deceive him, which is, very clever on Hawkeye's part.
Yeah, depressing. He's saying that they should team up as they're fighting the rebels and the government to get the brain. And Vivisector is like, oh, Vivisector and Hawkeye, it has a certain postmodern resonance. He's just eating it up because he's had enough time, especially with the dudes. Mm-hmm. And Hawkeye is really laying it on thick in a way that if Miles wasn't so myopic, he'd see through. He's like, you'll have to teach me how to be smarter. Like,
I'll teach you anything you want.
He's like, yeah, I'll teach you. We'll just spend a lot of time together. Tough work, but somebody's got to do it. So they get the brain, and then Hawkeye jets.
Yeah.
Just leaves.
Literally,
he's like, yeah,
like he shoots an arrow at a Quinjet and then jets out of Africa.
Yep. Just gets dangled across the fucking Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
To get home, and he's just playing him, which is sad. It turns out I still have stuff to do with the Avengers.
Yeah.
It's a very funny thing to leave. To say, I still have stuff to do with the Avengers. Gotta go.
It's gonna be Kevin Feige when he's like 82 years old. No, wait, I have another idea. Hold on. What if
I told you this before when I was really watching a lot of competitive Left 4 Dead? One of my favorite handles somebody had was BRB Bowflexin.
Okay.
Which I think is very, very funny to me. I'll be right back. I'm on my Bowflex.
That's really funny. This brings us to part 5, which is Venus de Milo versus Ant-Man. They're in Antarctica, where another piece of the brain has landed. Venus is talking to a atmospheric physicist, which I don't believe is named. Oh no, Professor Mott. She's basically, her job is to sit here alone in Antarctica and spend 10 hours a day in a metal box measuring density and temperature. So yay. And immediately, like as she's approaching the tent where this thing is, her stomach starts to feel a little bad. This one gets a little like weirdly meta. Like I read them today, so I haven't read this twice or anything, but like not necessarily meta, but like what is actually happening in this book versus what is just like in her imagination is kind of confusing to me. So maybe we can go into it a second time is going to help me out.
Venus is, her powers are ill-defined, at this point. Like, basically the idea is that Ant-Man hitched a ride inside her and is fucking with her. And we see like organs and stuff.
Yeah.
Organ meat and everything, like weird bio caves. He pops out and she just basically tries to get rid of him, but she can't. So she has organs and stuff inside her, but also there's metaphor.
Yeah.
Like she keeps trying to teleport him out, and it's fucking her up. Like it's screwing her up. She can't get rid of him. She keeps throwing him away, but every time she teleports back, he's with her.
Yeah.
He sneaks aboard. And we get to this, we cut eventually to Ant-Man, and what he's doing is just pulling on nerves and buttons and stuff, like pulling on cords. They look like the things you pull on a bus to make the bus stop.
Oh yeah. Okay, not when you're driving the bus. Okay, yeah, that one took me, but I was like, what?
Yeah,
you mean the brake pad?
Yeah, I don't drive, Jeremy. Don't beat me up.
The last time Gary drove, cars had brake tentacles, like much more expensive to swap out.
Yeah. I was just driving a bus. I go to the back of the bus, request a stop, then go to the front and make it happen. Give myself a little treat.
And yeah, so she immediately, like, as he comes up through her mouth and like expands to normal sized man, and then she tries to teleport like away from him. Like she teleports the both of them to a cornfield and then tries to jet, but he hitches a ride again. So, and he's like pulling on the insides as she's about to grab Dupe's brain and teleports it to like Japan or something. And she doesn't think that that's possible, but then she's thinking that, and he can also hear those thoughts too. So like, this is all very strange and weird.
Yeah. This is the weaker half of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't really jokes in it, and the mechanics of it are very confusing.
Yeah.
Eventually, him fucking around inside her does enough damage to where she's like on the ground, like going to die. And we're in this meat space. We're also in this metaphor space as these shirtless versions of Venus with arms that represent different parts of her personality come to start fighting Ant-Man.
Yeah.
This is Venus de Milo's subconscious self, and she's got sisters. She says
fighting, like, and they're fighting in like at least metaphorically or maybe even literally inside Venus de Milo's body. The sisters thing was weird. I guess I just didn't ever read this woman is black at all. But like,
she's very black.
Well, I mean, I know she's colored black, but like she wasn't coated black, I guess, and that's what I'm saying.
Oh no, I mean, like she totally was. Like she was the person who was like talking about she gets in Tyke's head about that. There's a part where it's like, you may be a brother who's in love with a dead girl, and I might be a sister who's in love with a white guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
And then her cousin Jamal and her family.
So, okay, my bad. All right. So yeah, this is Venus de Milo's unconscious. I kind of wish this was like some weird, like this, I'm the white blood cells or whatever that's come to get the invading species out of her body or something, but like whatever.
It doesn't work with Venus. It's weird that this would almost work with any other character.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have a body.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of her whole thing. We've seen her just float as a bunch of energy in a tank. So the idea is that she's got these little repressed people, Ant-Man saying like, oh, you're so nice, like you're a nice person. And she's like, yeah, she is, because she jams us down.
Mm-hmm.
The idea, this is her, and this is not characterization that was set up or particularly pays off in any way.
Yeah, if anything, she is literally one of the nicest characters in the show, in the comic book. I think in the last couple of issues, like you see her going a little dark side, I guess, for lack of a better term. But like, you don't really like up until now. She's just had this. The one confrontation she's really had is with Guy and him getting over his ex. But like, I kind of feel like that was all valid for her. Like she wasn't making too terrible decisions or anything. So
yeah. I don't know what it is. There's not a lot to the hidden dark side.
Yeah.
Of Venus, and there's not. This is the last set of episodes we're recording on this show. This is the fourth from the final issue. We're not going to get that at this point. And she doesn't even really win at this point. Like it's a stalemate. You know, they're holding Ant-Man down, and they can keep him here. And they're like, well, he says, I'll turn to a cancer. I'll turn to a tumor if I stay here. And, you know, we'll both die. And her subconscious is like, that's fine. Until eventually a psychic projection of Dr. Mott shows up and says, hey, this is killing Venus. Why don't you guys do this a civilized way? Let's flip a coin.
Yep.
You know,
and she goes on to say, like, I mean, like her argument that convinces them is like 12 countries signed a document saying that they weren't going to exploit Antarctica, and I'm like, there are hundreds of countries. Like, this is not a very good. There's so many. Like, if you do the ratio there, it does not work out on your favor at all. But it works. So they do a heads or tail call, and Venus de Milo wins, and basically like wakes up in the real world where Professor Mott did not have this conversation with her at all. And, you know, kind of mentions it like, oh, I won heads or whatever. And she's like, what? And then Venus is like, I don't have time to explain. See you later.
Yeah. This doesn't, you know, the X-Statix characters are not really winning through power or anything. Mm-hmm. They're kind of winning through luck. Like Dead Girl literally just like went into a poison soup and manipulated, and Venus won from a coin flip. Like X-Statix are worse superheroes than the Avengers in this. And that little, like, you know, 12 countries could come away to say that we don't do nuclear testing in Antarctica thing feels a little bit like shoehorning some trivia into me.
Yeah.
You know, like Peter Milligan read the Wikipedia on Antarctica before this, wanted to include that. You know, not particularly good. Yeah. Not particularly that strong or interesting.
Especially after all of the like made up but pulled from obvious like real life resources, you know, with the fight in Africa, which I thought was handled very well.
The Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah, exactly. So
kind of bad.
So this is still good though. Like, I think the second half of this issue it's just very strange. Like, it doesn't feel like, I don't know. Like, I was reading it, and when I finished reading it, I was like, I'm kind of confused about what just happened here. Like, it was kind of mushy in a way that it normally isn't. But it's also very fun to see Ant-Man have to freak out about, like, worried about being turned into a cancer/tumor inside of somebody else's body.
Yeah. And also, I love old school Ant-Man. Yeah. I like the idea of that. You know, it's still fun to see the drawings, like these little bioscapes that they're in. You know, the idea of Ant-Man shrinking down and like just pulling on people's nerves and stuff is pretty cool.
That's a good idea.
Like, all red art. Yeah. I'm sure he's done it before, but the art really sells it on this one, I feel like. But this issue suffers from not being the next issue, which I think is the funniest issue in the series. That is
the problem, is that it's not as good as the thing that comes after it. So,
it's unfair to hold it to it, but I will. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah,
we appreciate you, or for listening rather. If you're watching, no, thank you. That's fucking weird. And you should go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
You should. You get access to the Slack channel. You get exclusive podcasts. You get episodes early, not only of this podcast, but of most of the podcasts on the network. It is extremely good. So definitely go check all of that out.
And we'll be back in just a couple days.
Yeah. See you soon, everybody.
So,
bye.
Take care.